Good morning, everyone. Yesterday, if you remember, we learned about the strange motivations of Korach to make a war against Moses and Aaron. And even stranger, his success. Everybody believed him and they all went against Moshe. What was his motivation? And first of all, Korach was a nobody. He never had done anything. He was rich, but he didn't take the Jews out of Egypt. He didn't give them the Torah. He didn't lead them through the test. He never, all of a sudden he pops up and says, let's make a war against Moses. And everybody says, oh, that's a good idea. So what exactly happened? So it said, well, one reason they said because that my name is Yitzhar, Korach ben Yitzhar. My father's Yitzhar. Yitzhar means oil. So I'm the son of oil, and you were only anointed with oil. Does that make sense to anybody? And all the Jewish people said, oh, he's right. Well, we never thought about that. And so let's go against Moshe. And Moshe had saved everybody's life and he took everybody else. So that makes any sense? Doesn't make any sense. And then another thing he said, well, that's not all he did. That's not all he did. He took a talit, a talit, and he said, this talit, if it's all made of blue, and the whole thing is made of these strings. The string, one of the strings was blue. It's all made of these strings. If it's just the garment, do you have to put strings on it? And Moses said, yeah. And everybody said, ho, ho, ho. See, Moses, he lost it. He doesn't know. And of course, what Moshe said was right. And what Korach said was ridiculous. It's ridiculous because it's wrong. But somehow or other, all of the Jewish people were with Korach, which shows that, how do they say it? Sometimes, I mean, it's not a nice thing to say, but it's true. The masses are asses. The masses, if you go according to what the majority of people say, then you could be in really big trouble. You're in big trouble. That's why democracy is not necessarily a good system of government. It's just the best that there is now. If there's no leaders that are worth following unconditionally. So they let the people rule. But ideally, you can't. Moses was the king. And everybody had to listen to Moshe, but people didn't want to listen to him. So they made up all these weird things that were motivating all the people to go against Moshe. So that doesn't make any sense. Okay, but here you also get a little bit of a hint what's inside of humanity that they don't like to be told what to do. And the Jewish people are here to tell everybody what to do. They've got the Torah. And even if they don't know they have the Torah, but they still have it. Okay. Okay, so Moses, so let's talk about this thing about the tzitzit now, right? Tzitzit. So Korach says a garment that's all blue, the strands of one of the strands of two of the strands of the tzitzit were blue. So if it's all blue, he was really referring to the tzitzit in general. A talit that's totally made of tzitzit, does it have to have more tzitzit? And Moses said, yes, it does. And Korach said, see, we got to get this guy out of here. We have to depose him. Okay. So what's going on? Okay, so the Rebbe said like this. First of all, we want to understand this whole thing. Let's understand what is reality. What is reality? We're not talking about the Jewish religion over here. We're not talking about one little group of people that they insist that God spoke to them. So let's talk about what is reality. Reality, right? Do things exist or don't exist? The God of Israel is the God that creates all existence. All existence. Whether it's spiritual existence, it's emotional existence, it's consciousness, it's physical existence, energy, motion, God, life. God creates everything. So you're sitting now listening to this class, God is creating you. God is creating. That's the God of Israel. Okay, who is going to decide how to relate to this God? How do we live? Moses or me and you? Who's going to decide? Moses or just every man for himself? You're just as much as a creation as I am. Everyone's a creation. Yeah, I have a right. This is right. Right? God is my father. So everybody's father. Why? What do you got? more of a right to say what to create. And who even knows if this is true or not? So Korach said, listen, he's dealing with people that they all saw God. They all were eating manna that was coming down from God. They knew that God, these were people that a month earlier, a little bit more than a month, God took them, I'm sorry, a year earlier, that God took them all out of Egypt and he split the sea and he gave them the Torah. They all knew God exists. There's no doubt about it to these people. And they all knew that God chose the Jews. He took the Jews out of Egypt. He didn't take the Irish people out of Egypt. He took the Jews out of Egypt. And he gave them the Torah. Okay, so now the question is how to serve this God. Now you have to remember that this God we're serving is the God that creates all reality. All reality, all existence is being created by this God. So first of all, says the Rebbe, let's appreciate this. The people that God took out of Egypt, the Jews that took out of Egypt, they saw God. They saw this. They saw and they felt. They saw and felt that there is a creator and that the creator is creating them. They saw and they felt that the creator is creating the whole entire universe. Everything, all humanity, all beings, if there's aliens, God's creating them, creating everything there is, God is creating it. And he chose the Jews from all the mankind and all the aliens and all the angels, or whatever you want to say. He chose the Jews to purvey this message to all mankind, because people don't know it. They don't know it. Only the Jews know it. And the Jews are coming to tell everybody how much God cares about the individuals. So we're dealing with the big thing over here. We're not just dealing with who's going to, behead the family. Like one of these mafia things, who's going to, we're talking about who is going to head the whole entire universe, the whole world, all being. Okay, so the Rebbe says, let's have a little bit of a picture of what is reality. There's two types of reality, or another way of saying it, there's two types of godliness, because everything is made from God. It's made from nothing. God is making everything from nothing. So he's making from, so to speak, himself. So from his reality, he has to tone it down to make our created reality. So the Rebbe says there's two aspects, generally, aspects of this reality, and it's represented by tzitzit. You have to remember, God gave the Jews the Torah. He didn't just take the Jews out and said, I created the world. Right? He gave them a few customs or something like that. No, he gave them the commandments. And the commandments are God's inner will. It's like the reason why God created the world. Not like a human being has a heart and a lung. You would never guess that people have hearts and lungs. Well, there's robots that work. They don't have hearts and lungs. Right? People have hearts and lungs. The same thing in the world, the reality, the heart and lungs and the brain, etc., and the veins of the arteries of the world are the commandments. That's the inner anatomy of the commandments. Okay, so the Rebbe says there's two types of reality. One type of reality, there are two types of godliness, if you want to say. One type of godliness is how God fills the world, and another type of godliness is how God surrounds the world. Okay, now that makes no sense, because how can God surround the world when the world is not just a place? The world is reality. How can God surround it? What does that mean? He surrounds reality. I can get outside of infinity. It's like saying, what's one number above infinity? Infinity plus one. It doesn't make any sense. If it's infinite, and this is talking about, that's only numerical. So reality, God is outside of reality and he's inside of reality. So it says there's two types. It says that there's two types of godliness. One is called Soviv Kalmi. What is this? Where's this? Oh. They did this. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Let's make this bigger. I'm sorry. Make it bigger. I have to go up to the top to make it bigger. There it goes. Okay. Hine, behold, Yodua, it is known, Be'etz Chaim, in this Kabbalist book called Eitz Chaim from the Arizal, the Kav and the Chut. The Kav and the Chut, there is what's called the line and the thread, which is drawn from the Or Ein Sof, in order that there should be drawn down light, which is called Or Panimi, an inner light of God. In the beginning of this revelation is what's called Chachma. Chachma is the highest of the 10 spheroid. Okay, what did I just say? I'll explain in a second. That is called Mamalik Olamim, how God fills all the worlds. Shemeir B'Kol Olam, it shines each world according to its level. In the Bible, it says that God spoke. And that's how it starts. And the first day God said, let there be light. So God spoke. So what does it mean that God spoke? God has a mouth, he's got teeth, he has a tongue. What does it mean? God, this is before creation. Before God created anything, so he spoke. What did he speak with? How did he speak? It didn't exist. So it says, this is the powers of God's creation. The power of God's creation, that God is so infinitely real that in order to create even the highest spiritual worlds, God has to make this process of called tzimtzum, contraction, or using the word I love to use, articulation. I don't know why I like that word, something maybe in my past. Articulation. Articulation means that when you speak, you can articulate the words. If you don't articulate, then you go, doesn't come out any words. Articulating means that you you divide the letters up so that they can be succinct, and you can it says something. So that's what God did. God wanted to create a world. God wanted to create the world. The Bible begins with God creating the world. The Torah, that there's a lot of Bibles around. The Torah begins with God creating the world. It's coming to show us that the world is very, very important to God. How did God create it? By speaking. What does it mean, speaking? That God came from his, just like when we speak, you have to take your idea and you bring it down into a voice, and that voice gets all divided up according to what you want to say. So the same thing, God, so to speak, divided his reality. He separated his reality. So this is called God's Gevura. We just learned about that in the Tanya. In the Tanya, we go over we finish the book, the Tanya, once every year. So we're in what's called the gate of unity and faith, Shar Yichud Ve'emunah, and explains over there how the ability of God to, so to speak, limit himself in a limited way, this is as infinite as God's ability to reveal himself. Anyway, that's called how God fills the world. And this shines in every world and in every detail of every world, every angel, every plant, every blade of grass, every sand on the sea. Everything is created by God, but it's created according to how God limits himself. That's what's called the kav v'chut. It's called like a voice, like your voice comes out. It's like it comes out of your mind, your voice. You want to say something. You want to say something. The idea's in your mind. How do I get it to somebody else? I have to sort of I have to go through this whole process of contracting the idea which is in my mind to be a physical wind that comes out of my lungs and is pushed out by my diaphragm, whatever, and it comes through my vocal cords, and then it comes into my mouth, and my mouth moves around like that, and it moves according to what my brain wants to say. That's a very complicated thing. Well, that's what God does. God, in order to create the world, so he brings from his infinite oneness, like I bring from my mind, and I bring it into the wind, and etc. That's called the kav and the chut. This, like the wind of God, or how God articulates and limits and what conceals and directs his oneness into creation to do what he wants. God wants to create. That's called the line. This is Kabbalah stuff. Huh? You're learning Kabbalah over here. This is what's called the kav v'chut. This is what's called the pillar, the kav of creation. It's like God's voice and God's speech. And that creates all the details of the world. But there's also another level of godliness, and this is Soved Kolmin. This is how the aspect of God, which is not limited in any way by the creation. This is something like, let's say, God's thought. This is like when I have a thought in my mind, right, and I bring it into my speech, but the thought that surrounds the speech. I have a thought in my mind, right? Maybe let's make an automobile. Instead of having a horse draw my wagon, I'll have a combustion engine. How am I going to do it? It's all in my mind. That is in my mind. That is for me to bring this idea from my mind into the world. I have to make all these contractions and limitations and articulations and all these things. But the idea how it is before it becomes limited or articulated or whatever, that's God's reality before he limits it. That's what's called how God surrounds all existence or defies all definition. This is what's called Or Ein Sof. This is the infinite light of God, which surrounds all of the worlds, that surrounds all existence equally. Mirosh Ak, from the highest level, which is called Ak Adam Kadmon. It's the highest level of these limitations, ad until Ragli Asiya, until the feet of Asiya. And that is called the Kav. Okay, now let's skip a little bit. That's what's called the pillar. Now we're going to get so interesting. Listen to this. 1 second. Okay. I don't like to skip things, but we started a little late, so let's see. We go. All right. Okay. 1 second. Where did I get this there? We got the bar. Oh, no. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. There we go. Good. Okay. Now, here we go. Okay. Here we go. Ine, behold. So now we're going to give a little examples of how this aspect of God fills the worlds. Ready? It says, Hine kativ ba'adam rishon. It says by man. We're talking about the creation. That God put man into Gan Eden. Now, Gan Eden means heaven. Gan Eden means heaven on earth. Heaven is a spiritual reality. Spiritual reality. Maybe I can give you a little example. Let's say when you eat a food that you really like, you get pleasure. Pleasure. It draws you. You want to do it again. Pleasure. Where does pleasure come from? Why is it when I eat food that I really like, I get pleasure? Why the guy next to me doesn't get any pleasure? He sees my pleasure. Why doesn't he get any pleasure? Why? Because pleasure is a thing which is the essence of my soul. It's not the pleasure of his soul. It touches on something that gives me pleasure. Some person says, wait, what are you smiling for? Why? Because I just ate a peanut butter and jam. Says, peanut butter and jam. Wow, I hate it. You hate peanut butter and jam? Yeah, I hate it. Don't ever talk to me. You don't like peanut butter and jam? I don't want to see you again. I don't. Why? Because peanut butter and jam sandwiches are in the essence of my soul. I love peanut butter. I think about it. I dream about peanut butter and jam. What does it mean? Pleasure is something which touches the essence of a person's soul. He likes it. He likes it. It just all of a sudden fires something off. Oh, it's a unity. Pleasure. It says, well, that's what the whole world was. The whole world was pleasure in God. You get pleasure from making money from eating a peanut butter and jam. So what is the source of pleasure? Pure pleasure. Without doing anything. Just pleasure itself, not connected to anything. I don't know if there is such a thing, but pleasure, that's what's called heaven. That's what's called heaven. And there's levels of heaven. There's deeper and deeper. This is pleasure in the Creator. You feel the Creator. You feel the Creator. So it says God put man in heaven on earth. Why? To work on it, to make it higher. Pirush, what does it mean? Gan Eden, heaven, this by us, this is Kabbalah Schar, by us, and this is, what's it? Let me make this bigger. How did it get small? Oh, it's change pages. 1 second. I gotta go back to the top. Okay, so heaven, which that's basically the motivation of all the religions, as far as I know. You want to go to heaven. So it says, oh, here it is. So right now, heaven, that's the reward for all the work we do in this physical world. Huh? In this physical world. Now, this is the reward, Kabbalat Schar, on the commandments. But back then, by man, Adam, first man, before he ate from the tree, this was a physical place. Physical place. It was the place of work. This was his shop. The whole world was the place where Adam was put to work on and improve it. Improve heaven. Kamosha, it's just like now, this physical world, we have to work here. And our reward that we get after a person dies, all the meaningless things, they just go away with a person's death. Some people say when you die, everything goes away. Right? So we say no. All the meaningless things, they go away. All the food that you ate and the meals, who cares about that in heaven? It's already gone. It's connected to your body. You don't have a body. But your soul, anything that you did with your soul, truth, that you get a reward. And the reward, this is, that's what I said. The Kabbalah Schar, back then, by Adam, by Adam, his reward was higher than heaven. There wasn't any heaven by him, and that heaven by Adam wasn't nechshav the bechinas Kabbalah. This was not a reward, but this was where he lived. Listen, if Adam had not eaten from the tree, there would be no death. So people would not go to heaven. There would be no heaven. Heaven, this world was like heaven. It was pure pleasure serving the creator of the universe. You were pleasing the creator all the time, and the creator is creating us. We owe him everything. So Adam was constantly living in a world of service, but he saw the results of his service, to do good and to turn away from bad things. Kamoata, just like now by us in this physical world, back then by Adam, heaven was the place that he was working in. He was improving it. Yeah? Okay, says the. Okay, so it says, that's what it says, Vayita Elokim Gan, that God planted a garden in this place called Eden. Planted, what does it mean? That's Asiya. God did something and he made this physical world. But back then, the physical world wasn't physical. Back then, the physical itself was, I want to call it transparent. You could see godliness. Ki'az, then, Kodem Echet, before the sin, Gam Kalalos Olam, the whole world, physical world, was much higher than it is now. Harba Yotiyot, much, much higher and meaningful than it is now, Mimashu Atav, than it is now. From this is understood in Aliyot Olamot, the idea of elevating the worlds. What does it mean, elevating the worlds? Adam back then was in a world which was what we consider to be heaven. So that's higher, if you want to call it, than this world, like higher mathematics, right? There's more mathematics revealed. By Adam, by the heaven, there's more reality revealed. So if so, we see that there's levels of worlds. There's this world where godliness is totally concealed. And then there's higher, we can put into this world higher levels of godliness. For instance, the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple was a place where people went and they felt, hey, this world is a creation. There's a creator that's creating us. Right? And everybody said, yeah, I know. I feel there's a creator. It's not a spiritual feeling. By God, this physical world is exactly the same thing as the spiritual worlds. But by us, it's not. The spiritual worlds much more reveal God than this world. And that's the idea of doing the Torah and the commandments, that it makes this world a little clearer to feel godliness. That's what it means. The upper lights of God will be revealed more in the vessels. Something like a person has glasses. You clean off your glasses, you can see better. It's not that you clean off your glasses, there's new things that weren't there before. You just discover new reality that you didn't know. The same thing by doing commandments in this world. So to speak, cleans off the glasses so you can see the oneness of God. That's what Adam was put in the world for. The world was like heaven, and he could see more and more godliness. And now by us, But so by us doing commandments now in this world, it reveals godliness in this physical world until Shama, that Sha'ata now, which is now the level of Atzilut, the highest spiritual level. In the future will be Asiya, it'll be physical world. In other words, the highest level will be the physical level. The Hainu Sha'ulam Asiya, that the world of Asiya, this physical world, will be the revelation like it is now in heaven, the highest level of Atzilut. What about the world of Atzilut, which that's the highest dimension of reality? What's it going to be? Will be even higher than Mipnei, because there will be revealed high lights of godliness even more in the vessels. Huh? The only way I can liken this, I can think maybe an example of this is like, ideally it's supposed to be you go to university and you learn, let's say you want to be a professor in mathematics. So you start off, let's say a child in the third grade, he's really good at it, mathematics. So he learns mathematics and now he's a whiz. The kid knows multiplication and addition and everything like that. But he can't imagine how you can do like logarithms and all this algebra and trigonometry. He can't imagine. But he learns more and more and more until he becomes a professor. And then all of this type of mathematics is like nothing in his hands. It's just, so he's in a higher level of reality of what mathematics is. Before, if a person was quick at addition, they really impressed him. Now, that's like small change. That's like nothing. Right? So it's the same thing with us. What is reality? By us, heaven. Who? Going to heaven. Who knows what that means? Big tzaddikim. That's like, the little child with the professor. But here we're not talking about just being an expert in mathematics or being a genius in music or something like that. That there's great people that's like automatic, they're on a higher level. Here we're talking about all of reality. And reality doesn't demand, it's beyond wisdom and understanding. It's reality. Sometimes a simple person can get a better picture of what reality is than the most complicated person. Exactly the opposite. Sometimes your intellect confuses you. What gets in the way of what's reality? Selfishness. When you think I am the reality and I call the shots, then that takes a person away from true reality. That's why Adam was put into heaven, and to do two things: to work on it, reveal godliness, but also to protect it, that it shouldn't fall into the hands of egotism, which it did. You see that it did in the end. That Adam, just after a couple hours after he was created, Adam said, "Hey, what's this tree? That's the tree I'm not supposed to eat." His wife said, "Eat it." He said, "Oh, okay. But you want peace at home? You want to live with me here forever? Huh? And you don't eat the tree? You don't do what I say?" Right? And Adam started thinking, this nagging is going to go. People don't die. You live forever. With this nagging, my whole infinite nagging. Eat the tree already. I told you not. I've been telling you I'm not going to eat the tree. 70,000 years I've been refusing to eat the tree. Now, okay, 70,000 years is enough. Eat the tree. So I said, why should I wait 70,000 years nagging? I'll eat the tree now. He said, eat the tree. It's good. He ate from the fruit. That's it. The whole thing went down the drain. And that's why we're in the situation that we're in now, that we don't know what reality is. We don't know what reality is. Briefly, we got a glimpse of what reality is when God gave the Torah. Okay, so now our job is to draw lights of godliness, orot panimim, into the vessels of this world, so that it should be revealed more ad ein case, without any end. And that's what's called 50,000 jubilees. This is all in this light, which is called the inner light, or panimi, or mamali kolmim, how God fills the worlds. But God himself, that's what's called or makif, the surrounding aspect of God, that this is above the whole creation, the kav, this line, and it surrounds from the head of Ak, the highest of levels of creation, until the lowest levels of creation, which that's me and you. That by that, God is totally equal. By that aspect of God, that, if you want to say it maybe in a more explainable way, there's the fact that God creates. The things exist, not how they exist, not the different levels of spirituality, how God reveals himself, just the fact that there is an existence. that God can make existence. That's what's called, it's an aspect of God. It's called how God surrounds the worlds. He's above all definition. Shahari Makif Latzilut, this aspect of God surrounds Atzilut, the highest dimension of reality, and Asiya, and unequal. That's why the rabbis say it's better, it's better to one moment of doing tshuva and good deeds in this world than all of the world to come. Says, then the lives of the world to come, the plural. There's all of these 50,000 jubilees. A jubilee is 50 years, right? This is like each year is the 265 the days. So this is like 365 levels of godliness divided, multiplied by 50. That's a jubilee, multiplied by 50,000. So there's all these little levels of godliness from one level to the other. That's what's called how God fills the worlds. How fill the world. That's what's called the inner light of God. All of that is like nothing compared to the surrounding light of God. It says, of a late machshava tafisa bay, but there's no thought that can grasp in God at all, but God's essence. Where is this essence of God found? The angels are going crazy. They're screaming out and they're burning up. Let's get close to God. And the angels say, you know where God is? God is in the physical world by the Jews with the Torah. That's why I say when God gave the Torah, so a little bit of true reality was revealed in the world, and it's still here. That's the Torah. And that's the commandments that come from the Torah. By means of tshuva, of a Jew returning to his senses, that he has a job in the world and doing good deeds, maisim tovim, in this world, it draws down the surrounding light of God, God's essence. And that's the idea of these two sentences. It says, one sentence says, the heavens and the earth I fill, I myself. That's the essence of God, which is revealed in this physical world by the Jews doing the commandments. And it says, but the whole world is filled with God's glory. Only God's glory, not rak b'chinas zi, just a ray of godliness. So that's what he says. It says that God said, I fill the world. This is what's called the essence of God, how he surrounds all the worlds. He's above all definition, the creator. He's above this level of the beam of God or God's word, etc. Because God surrounds all of the, what means he surrounds, it doesn't mean he surrounds physically, because there's no physical. Physical is just a creation. God can't be outside of it because there's no outside of reality. This is the creator of reality. That's called Soviv Kolomi. Okay. And that is connected to the commandments. That's the reason for creation. And even though that God surrounds all creation equally, Rakshan, God is called, he surrounds, he's outside, but it's not understandable at all. It's not, you can't even approach it with your mind. What can you approach it? That's how God fills, his glory fills the world. That's what's called or panini, how God limits himself into different levels so that we can see different levels of reality starting from us. That's called Jacob's ladder also, from below to above. So there's a commandment in the Torah to understand the God. Shema Yisrael means understand. Jews understand that God is our God, and from that you come to love God. But loving God is a commandment. It's a commandment in the Torah to love God, but you can only do it if you understand something. You have to understand a little bit about how incomprehensible, it's impossible to understand God. You have to understand that. And then you can understand a little bit level. It says that there's the angels. There are angels. They appreciate God. They must be appreciating something. And it says the angels are the source of us. Our, what's called natural soul comes from the angels. So if the angels are excited about God, it must be that God is really valuable and it must be really real. So when we think about that, then that sort of gets us aroused a little bit to the oneness of God. Okay, this is going to be the idea of the talit, the garments. The garment is the oneness of God, which is not comprehensible. And the strings are talking about bringing God into the world, things that we can understand, how God fills the worlds, as we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. And here we go. We didn't give charity, by the way.